This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's pod. This show for the week of January 22nd, 2024. And Phil, we got a great show today. All right, we picked up some good things to talk about. I'm looking forward to it. But first, I want to welcome Kevin Sparrow to the community. He hopped on Discord. And the funny thing is, I think somebody else welcomed him. And on Discord, we've got this thing, like if you post like a handful of messages, you go from like level 1 to level 2, and then it exponentially grows and you gain levels in Discord. It's a fun little thing. And, you know, this person who's been on Discord for quite some time, but never types, he's what they call a lurker. And he welcomed somebody to the community. He leveled up from level 1 to 2 and like, haha, we forced you to participate. So, but that's what you can do. Hopefully you can trigger other lurkers in Discord for joining the conversation. If you too join also. So if you can join the conversation, and also a reminder where you can find us Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube channel on the DBC Pod. We appreciate all the following and interaction and all that. But we're back to our regular cadence, Phil. You're back from your trip, so we're actually recording on our normal Monday night.
Yep.
And it's been kind of like a mellow week, I think, Phil. Not a lot of great information or exciting information.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. A lot of little things, but nothing earth-shattering. But
yeah, so there's nothing really going around other than this normal cadence of what Disney's announcing at this time of year. It's the new festivals coming up. It's discounts, or it's this, that, and the other. So nothing earth-shattering. I would really have liked an update, and maybe we can do this. We had some conversation about the dining plan on Discord about somebody found like a really cool, was it Mammoth Club that found like the which one was that?
So I watched it because Mammoth Club put out their video of like, I think they called it like, can we beat the Disney dining plan? And so they were all out to like, we're going to get the most expensive things, and they were park hopping, and they went to Disney Springs and all this to kind of get the most expensive things to say like, okay, here's how much we had to pay for the day for the dining plan. Here's how much the food we would have costed if we didn't have the dining plan. And I think the best deal they found was that Polite Pig in Disney Springs counts as a quick service. And they got the rib meal, which I think by itself was $26. And then an old fashioned, which was like 13 or something. And the rib platter was huge. It was easily enough for 2 people.
That's
and
crazy.
So like I think altogether it would have been like $41 or something, but they got for a quick service credit, which is like $15 to $20 worth normally. So it's just, it just goes to show like, it's all about how you use it, what your mentality is, but then also like, you can get good value out of it, but it just compares, you can't get, chicken fingers and stuff like that. Like,
well, I mean, this is one thing that we mentioned last week is like when you get the quick service meal, it does come with an adult beverage on there, right? And when you're in the Magic Kingdom, there's no quick service locations where you can get alcoholic beverages. It's only the sit down. It's like Skipper's Canteen, and I think you can get a beer or wine now at Crystal Palace as well, and Cinderella's Royal Table. I guess also in
MBR Guest,
right? Yeah. I don't know if it's the other sit-down meals.
At Liberty Tree Tavern, you can
get
too.
At Liberty Tree? Okay, fair enough. But no quick service. I think all the other parks have the options of getting like a beer, or at least a beer or something like that with quick service. But like no one also thinks about using their dining plan at Disney Springs, right? Because people consider Disney Springs just like private restaurants. They're not Disney restaurants.
And not all of them do participate, but some of them, or at least the majority, I think, do, yeah.
So when you've got the dining plan, make sure you check where you're going or where you might want to go. You might get a good deal like that. So something to think about. Or you could just watch Mammoth Club or something else like that. They do a pretty good job figuring those things out. All right. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. That was definitely not in our show notes. But
the other thing that I saw was they pointed out that if you get an ad, and Len Testa pointed this out on their show too, if something's like an add-on, it's not included in the dining plan, or you have to pay it for an extra. So Mammoth Club did the test where they got a hot dog. They didn't actually do it, but they put it in the app. And they said, "Do you want to get cheese on the hot dog?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd like cheese on my hot dog." Well, the cheese was an add-on, which the default for the dining plan was to count that as your snack for the day.
Oh,
so you would have used up your snack credit for $1 thing of
do
cheese.
they warn you though for that, or
So when you review it, it shows up, but you have to kind of manually go in and edit and say, "I don't want to use my credit for this. I want to pay for it separately." So if you don't know to do that,
ooh, that's a good tip right there. Let's spread that one around.
So but then like toppings or something like that are included. So somebody from Len Testa's podcast, they went in and they got some sundae at the ice cream place, and they got like every topping possible, and that was fine. So it would have been like a $15 sundae because they got every topping. And then they did the same thing at Starbucks, because that's another good tip, is any Starbucks drink counts as a snack. So you can get like the venti super thing. And they got like 20 shots and like all these. They literally would have been over $15 for this Starbucks drink, but it counted as a snack. So,
well, that was one tip from back in the day when dining plan was used all the time. Always go to Starbucks and get your coffee, but get the most expensive one. It's one snack, even if it's $15. So that one's a tried and true one. I'm glad that's still there. So yeah. So anyway, that was just like a random thing. I just remembered. That's not in our show notes, but I definitely wanted to bring it up in some fashion. It just kind of popped in my head. All right. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, there's a lot of just like random things being announced. Nothing that's like super like, exciting to talk about. But one of the things is they're expanding or talking about the extra or just after hours type of events. So Phil, you wanted to bring up something. How I think we talked about this when they announced them.
Yeah, we've mentioned this before. About after hours, but it got me thinking again when they announced that they're extending them. They said into the summer. If you look at it, it looks like Hollywood Studios is all the way through like August, but Magic Kingdom's only through end of June, I think, and Epcot's into July or something. So they're not all throughout the summer. So I don't know if that means something else is going on in Magic Kingdom or whatever. But it got me thinking, could you plan a trip and not get regular park tickets and just do after hours events? Because we've talked a little bit, obviously we've said the vacation and the vacation, and I've mentioned how like getting my kids up for rope drop is getting harder and harder, and just as we kind of evolve our vacation styles, could something like this work? And I did pick a week. You could go June 20th and do it at the Magic Kingdom, the 26th at Hollywood Studios, and the 27th at Epcot. So if you're there for like a week, you could do 3 different nights for the after hours and spend the rest of the time.
I was going to say that's a spread, because the 20th to the 27th, that's an 8-night trip.
Yeah. So that's part of the problem, is they're not as often as maybe you would like. So maybe it's more a theoretical exercise than something you could actually do.
But you could definitely do 2 of them though.
Yeah, you could at least definitely do the Hollywood Studios and Epcot. Those are back-to-back nights. So you could do like kind of a shorter trip and bang out 2 parks with some of the newer, greater attractions, and probably have a good time, especially in July, August, when it's 1,000,000 degrees during the day.
Yeah.
Go at night. So I kind of just had the question, like, would something like that appeal to you? And could you see going down, like doing a trip down to Disney World and not doing any normal park days?
So absolutely I could, right? They would probably be more of like, either it's I don't think it could be like a full trip, right? Because the cost of the normal tickets and these tickets, they're not discounted. So if you go down for like, let's say 4 or 5 park days, and it's either 3 normal days and 2 after hour events or vice versa, you're not getting discounts on anything. So you're basically paying like 5 like single entry.
Yeah, the after hours are even a little bit more than a single park day. So it definitely would be per day is more expensive.
Yeah, it's like $150 to like $180-ish.
Yeah, it depends on the park. I think Epcot's a little cheaper, Magic Kingdom's more expensive, but yeah.
So would I do it? Yes, theoretically. So let's not consider the money. I mean, we always have to consider the money, but like, let's not consider it for this one like thing. Yeah, because it definitely makes sense. There, Blog Mickey put out an article today about somebody reviewing their day at the thing. So they went through. If you haven't seen it, go check out Blog Mickey. It was posted today, and it goes through like all the costs, what's included, etc., like the whole thing, and then it gave him opinions of it and what wait times he observed. And I think I scrolled through it pretty quickly, but I think all of the wait times were under 20 minutes, and the majority of them were under 10. So the longest one was Tron at 30 minutes, and I think everything else was 15 or less, if I'm not mistaken. And you get free candy. They have carts, which are better than the Christmas party because they're carts. You can just go and grab something and go, so you don't have to wait online or have to go in somewhere. I should say they're in carts. And I think it's definitely worth the value. You can bang out. I think you can get there at what, like 7 o'clock.
So I know for the because we're doing for my down and back with my son, we're doing the Epcot one, and you can get in at 7. So you can get in time to see the fireworks show at the regular day fireworks show at either Epcot or Magic Kingdom.
So you can get like, what is it, a solid 5-ish hours in the parks?
So we'll have from 7 to 1 a.m.
6 hours then.
Yeah.
Right? Did I do the math right? Excellent.
Yes.
Math on the fly. 6 hours. So that's actually pretty good because when we did the Christmas party, we got in at 4 and we left around 11:30, 12. So that was 8 hours and we got everything done. In 6 hours, I think, especially at Epcot, you can definitely get everything done and have plenty of time to just like chill and kind of not feel the pressure of time.
Exactly.
So definitely worth the time to do it. My only problem with this is I think Disney should do these more often. And I think Disney's scared to do that because they're going to be perceived as like being grubbing for money type of thing. So I think the only downside to this is that the parks just aren't naturally open later because they have these events going up, right?
Yeah, even if they're after hours, so it's not like for the parties where like day guests get kicked out at 6 or anything like that. But it does mean the parks aren't staying open late, like so Magic Kingdom can't stay open for everybody till 11 or midnight if you have after hours people there then.
And very often, I know last summer was it last summer? In July, they did, I think Magic Kingdom might have been open to like 11 or 12 for like a good solid 2 weeks in the middle of the summer. And with an after hours event, you'd be closed at like 9:30 normally. So you're losing some time with that. But yeah, I would definitely do it because you can have like, if you alternate them or whatever, you do full park days, but then you do these events and you have the whole day to like just chill. Like you can wake up late, go swimming, go get breakfast somewhere. And you also, I mean, you could do like Animal Kingdom or Hollywood Studios and get done and head over to that event if you want to be up from like 8 o'clock in the morning through 1 o'clock. I mean, but you still have time, to do other things if you wanted to spend the money on it. So that definitely does appeal to me. You get to see the fireworks. I'd like to do it, but again, for me, I think I would do almost exactly like what you're doing. It'd be like the once in a lifetime father-daughter trip down or, type of thing where you're only paying for 2 tickets. You're not paying for the whole family to go. Cause that certainly hurts when you have to do, I don't know, you got family of 5. That's probably close to $700 with tax for one night. And then you do 2 of them and all of a sudden it's $1,400. To me, that's kind of crazy. Right. So,
that's why for me, and I guess I was posting the question, it's almost like just to add one of these on to your regular trip makes it pretty pricey, or to add 2 on, but to do it sort of instead of the day trip is that one way to do it. And the other way where I saw maybe this could apply is if, especially next summer, if they're still doing these after Epic Universe opens, could you do like a Universal's focus trip, but add in 1 or 2 of these after hours to kind of get your Disney fix while you're down there?
Yeah, that's a lot of time. Just like going to Animal Kingdom and showing up to one of these events. I probably wouldn't do this unless it's like the whole family's going down there, but we're going down for another reason. It's not a Disney vacation, but we want to do Disney. That's a good way to pay for it for a single day and kind of get a rush.
I mean, in the back of my head, I kind of have like after Epic Universe, maybe we'll rent like or either use timeshare or rent like a Airbnb for a couple of weeks, kind of in the area, and get main tickets would be for Universal, but maybe we do, we're down there for 2 weeks or something, so we'll do 4 or 5 days at Universal and then maybe 1 or 2 of these.
Yeah, that makes sense. So another thing, I was just looking at, there's a new property like right north of Riverside, and it's the new Evermore property where it's like you can rent. It's all like condos and homes and hotel rooms and like in a big giant lake in the middle that's man-made and built for like swimming and boat riding, like a whole bunch of different crazy stuff. I know last time we talked about it was a long time ago. It didn't seem very affordable or wasn't anything nuts, but I was looking at prices again for like just like May, because I think our next trip is going to be May at some point. And for a family of 6, or 6 people, it slept 6 to 8. It was like $400 to $500 a night for like 3 queen beds and all this other stuff. And I'm like, you know what? That's not that bad compared to what you're paying at Disney. You're right there on property. The only thing is I don't think they offer, which kind of is crazy to me, but transportation to the parks from there.
I don't think
offering
so.
that. So you would have to have your own transportation, or if you have a car, you're good to go. But then you're paying parking every single day, so you got to think about that. But again, I'm thinking about like there's definitely going to be an Epic Universe trip at some point in 2025, whether it's a down and back again type of thing or an extended trip. And I'm only just thinking about how do I stay down there for like 2 weeks. It sounds like an awesome type of thing. You can do like an Orlando trip,
exactly,
and type of thing. So now I'm just, my brain is now thinking I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be live planning on a show with my brain. I'm getting distracted, but that's something to think about. So another thing that you kind of picked up on, Phil, and I want you to elaborate this: the Flower and Garden Festival is ending earlier this year, and festivals never end early; they just keep going on and on longer. So, what did you pick up on?
Yeah, so they announced the formal dates for the Flower and Garden Festival. Previously, they had announced the start date, which I was interested in just to make sure it was starting before my down and back trip. So I will get to see it, for at least a few hours. But this year it's ending May 27th, and last year it went all the way to July 5th. So it's not like it's just like a week early. Like this is about 6 weeks earlier. So it's leaving a lot of speculation about like, well, why and what are they doing with that time? I don't think it's that they're just going to start Food and Wine 6 weeks earlier.
Unless do we have a date for Food and Wine this year?
No, they haven't started it yet. Last year it started pretty much right after Flower and Garden ended, so in July, and went all the way into November. I can't imagine they're going to start like Memorial Day and just so maybe they break it into 2 parts or something. Or people are speculating because we've talked about before that it seems like summer bookings are down. They might need something new and different to draw people in. Could they start a new festival, like a summertime themed festival?
I like this idea, and I never even thought about it. You picked up on the dates. I don't typically pay attention to any Epcot festivals and dates. Right, I've only been to the 2, Food and Wine and Festival of the Holidays. I enjoy them, and I've been down with no festivals, and it's to me they're almost all the same, except because they all have the same food booths and different, or maybe different foods, obviously, but like. The flowers are pretty. They're great. I can see them in pictures. But to me, it's still Epcot, the park, right?
Yep.
So I don't typically pay attention to one of these things. I only pay attention if I know I'm going to be down there. So I think it's pretty awesome that you picked up on the date changes. So that's pretty cool. So would a summer festival get people to go? I think a summer festival, a new festival at Epcot would be a draw for a lot of people, specifically locals, obviously, because they're gonna be swarming the park if there's something different, right? It's a new popcorn bucket. They're swarming the parks. But I think if they do something right, and I'm kind of racking my brain, like what would be a summer festival? Like I think that's worthy of planning a trip. What do you think? What do you think they would do for a summer festival?
So I don't know what it would be like theming. I mean, I guess you could just do summer theme things, and it's more because we always complain like they have like the hot noodle booth in August at Food and Wine Festival. So instead, kind of push Food and Wine into more fall. And then the summer is like, a lot of ice creams and ices and things like that. Kind of like what do people do around the world in different countries in their summertime? Like, in Mexico and China or whatever, like what are their summertime treats? The other thing, and I think Scott Gustin mentioned this when he was on the Happily Everything Disney podcast, was his proposal was like, what if you just did something different every summer? Like every year it was a different theme. And one thing that got me thinking was maybe it's not a totally different theme, but maybe you use it as an opportunity to kind of hype the new movie out, right? Because, in the past they used to do like a new parade for, when The Lion King was coming out or Aladdin or whatever, they had a new parade. Sure. What if you did the festival and kind of made the mascot or whatever, kind of whatever the new movie. So like this year it's like Inside Out 2. So maybe that's the theme for the summer festival is all kind of more focused on Inside Out 2 and whatever the new movie next year is. Something like that where you use it to sort of promote and, I don't know, just kind of relate that into it.
I mean, I think Disney should be promoting movies all the time in the parks, like constantly. Like, we're launching a movie. we're doing it should be automatically in their marketing budget to do things at the parks.
Yeah.
I don't know why they don't do it other than billboards and maybe a meet and greet here and there, but I like that idea. But I don't think people are going to be planning. I don't think people would plan to go to Epcot just to see the Inside Out 2 or the Indiana Jones movie event. So I think it has to be more than that. I mean, though that could be part of it, obviously. But I think if we're going to have a summer festival, you got to do something where it's, water fun. It's got to have, all the treats. All the festivals have food, right? So it's food. I don't really care what it is. That's not going to draw people into the park. I think they have to do summertime, with the new Communicore stuff opening up. Maybe it's the summer concerts. Maybe it's kind of we're going to have Disney stock and have a bunch of acts coming in throughout the summer. And it's just all music and just party-ish type stuff.
That's a good idea.
So just a festival, not you've got food and wine, which is all just drinking and eating. You've got Festival of the Holidays, which are all Christmas and celebrations and stuff like that. You've got the Festival of the Arts, which is artists and things. And it's just, it's wonderful, but you need another draw, and no one does anything where it's music. There's no festival of music. So instead maybe summertime, maybe it's kind of a music type of thing, and it's all just music and entertainment, and they have to figure out how to do that and not people melt in the middle of the sun in the summer. So that should be interesting. And I'm curious to see, now that I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking out loud, is the new World Discovery area, which is actually nicely shaded with a lot of foliage and things in there. So I'm curious how that's going to look once the sun is beaten down, whether or not that offers.
Yeah, and I know that World Celebration area, there's little nooks that are supposed to be for festival booths and stuff like that. So we'll see how that flows. I guess there's rumors that that'll pick up more with Flowery Garden, but I guess we'll see.
So yeah, I'm down for a summer festival, and if because this is going to lead into our next topic with Tiana and stuff like that. I mean, if there's a new festival at Epcot, and then a new attraction opening up in Magic Kingdom, that might be enough to entice me to say, hey, want to plan a 2-day, turnaround type of trip like we did a couple years ago as a family. I kind of like that idea, because especially if no one knows or saw it and you're blind to Disney Twitter or anything else, NOLA.com did a small preview of Tiana's Bayou Adventure in the Magic Kingdom. So somebody was able to walk through the queue, walk into the building, and into the actual ride track system for a short part of it. I think it was up to the drop before the laughing place.
I think so,
I think so.
I believe so, yeah.
And they were just remarking on some details. So go to NOLA.com, find that article, or it's linked in every single piece of Disney media across the internet. It was shared. Now, here's a couple questions I have for you, Phil. So, do you think, there's rumors flying, not rumors, but there's increased speculation, I want to say, about an opening of summertime. But people are thinking, maybe July, maybe August, this type of thing. But a lot of people are bringing it back to my guess, which was Memorial Day. Yeah. So again, maybe patting myself on the back. What do you think about that? Are we thinking closer to May at this point?
Yeah, I still think, just because I know you put in the show notes, maybe they don't have to do as much testing and stuff like that because it's an existing ride. I still think they're going to be doing testing and still want to do previews and stuff like that. So maybe I could see by Memorial Day, by May, having some of those previews go on. I just can't see it being fully open, because that means you're pushing previews to late March starting or something. And that just feels real soon.
But do they need to have previews? Do you need to have a month worth of previews? Can they just open it up? Because they're so...
They could. They certainly could. I feel like they do that, to kind of to work out the kinks and stuff like that, but also sort of rewarding cast members and annual pass holders with perks and stuff like that. So,
but I want to point out, right? I agree with you, right? They should give people all the first previews and all this other stuff. But if summer bookings are soft, there might be a smell of desperation involved here. Disney's going to know a year beforehand when you're able to book for the summer of the next year. They know if you don't hit certain metrics by certain dates, it projects what it's going to be by this time next year, right? They have all this historical data. So we don't hit 20% bookings by the day 420 of Memorial Day, we know that by Memorial Day we're going to have roughly around this band
Sure.
of bookings, right? So they might have made this decision a while ago, seeing all the softness. Again, all speculation, of course. That we need to get something up and running for the summertime. And if it's going to be open, we're going to know about it within the next month. People are speculating details for our Mardi Gras, that type of thing, like a whole big celebration. Right, Tiana's is opening up X date, right? So look for that over the next month, I think. And if you were thinking about going to Disney this summer and doing some soft planning without any booking, consider waiting, or at least book now, but don't book airline tickets, let's say, until maybe Mardi Gras in February, because they might announce Tiana, and you might want to be sure if it's don't book for Memorial Day when Tiana's is opening like 3 weeks from there, and maybe you can adjust like a month later and go instead. So keep that in mind. So other things that were in that article was they confirmed some animatronics that are throughout the ride, right? They've got which ones did they announced that the face characters are going to have actual face animatronics, like the ones that we've seen in Frozen in Hong Kong. We've seen the who did they show?
They showed some of the inner workings for Lewis the alligator.
Lewis, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. That looked good. And they were using cardboard cutouts, so you got a sense of where they were in the ride. Is this like just confirming to yourself what you thought? Were you surprised by any of this? What was your initial reaction?
No, I mean, it's definitely nice to have that confirmed that they are using the face ones. That ties with everything else I've heard, that they've found the projection ones maybe aren't. They were going to that because they thought they could do more with it, and also that it would have less maintenance. But they're kind of finding that once the projectors can get, it's easy for them to get off a little bit, and then it just throws the whole thing off. So they actually need more maintenance than maybe they thought they would. So this all like kind of lines up with that. It's kind of what I was expecting. Everything you're hearing, and they weren't gonna. There's so many eyes on this; they can't do a bad job with it. So I was expecting. There's a lot of negative Nancy's out there that are kind of downplaying everything and saying how terrible it's going to be. But I was kind of thinking that it's going to look good. So it just kind of confirms what I was expecting.
I mean, you just have to look at the level of detail that they have on the outside of the attraction with all the foliage. They're hanging up bottles now, the flowers. The outside looks absolutely gorgeous. And speaking of the outside, one of the things in line, I don't know if you picked up on this, I kind of looked at it, but no one's kind of mentioning it, was they mentioned that they took the tree off the top of the ride, and I'm assuming it's the tree stump that was on top of Chickapee Hill, right? Because we needed more real estate to fit in some added show magic. Because I don't actually remember that actually being part of the ride, other than once you went outside and kind of went around. If you looked up, you can see it. But it wasn't really part of the attraction.
Right.
So what does that mean?
Yeah, I guess I meant they needed to like sort of raise the roof, for lack of a better term, so they could fit more showpieces in there. My understanding, and like you said, we're seeing the bottles hung and stuff. Is that supposed to be where Mama Odie is? And so I guess that's like her place. And I think it's going to be somehow that tied into that she's casting magic, and that's sort of what results in you falling down the big drop.
So, okay, because now you're talking about it, I'm thinking about it. I guess that tree is right over the opening to the drop.
It's right over the opening, and when you on the old ride, you kind of were going up, and you had the crows and stuff that were there, or the buzzards as you were going up. But at the very top, there wasn't really anything.
It was all dark
there. It was all pretty much dark, other than the opening, right, where you could look out. So I guess they're going to add more to that right before you drop part.
Well, I think that would be absolutely fantastic, because you got to think, like, as you're going up the incline to go out, like, you're staring up into something, right? So that's a whole canvas for them to use to do some storytelling or so. Do
you think about it, they did a little bit of that on Mine Train, right, where you have the dock animatronic, and then they project the shadows and stuff of the dwarves. So I'm kind of thinking that taken to the next level. Yeah.
Again, I think it's what you see in all the art, and what you start seeing with all like the bottles of different colored glass kind of hanging. It's going to be like, especially with the concept art, there's a lot of color and celebration and magic. So it's not like a dark, like foreboding drop. It looks like it's like, you were the magic or casting a spell or whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? It's going on right before the last like celebration scene. Maybe you're growing, maybe you get magic gets cast on you, you're a critter for the whole ride, and now you're changing back to human form and you go into the celebration with everybody else. I don't know what it is, but I think the idea of just glittering lights and magic up there might be really, really cool, which is a complete 180 from what it was there. So then, what do you think then with an attraction like that, with all that extra color and stuff like that? Does that make the attraction better in your mind? Is that something that's more exciting? And is it because they wanted more color there? That's why they didn't do like "see you on the other side" type of thing where it's dark and foreboding. Like, where do you see like light versus dark on that type of thing?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we know they had to have a different take on it because they weren't having, the Shadow Man, Dr. Felicia. He's not in it because this takes place after the movie and he was defeated in the movie. Not to say they couldn't have come up with some story to bring him back, but everything we've heard is he's not in this attraction, so they needed to go a different direction. And I think that makes sense, right? To have a different take on it. This isn't some dark, scary thing where the evil guy's going to throw you out. It's not just repeating that storyline notes.
Right.
So I think it's interesting. I'm glad they're going in a different direction. I hope it works out well. Obviously, the naysayers will naysay even more about it. But I'm trying to.
What do you think personally, though? Like light versus dark, just like light magic, happiness versus foreboding. Does that change? Like, in your opinion, does that change the ride at all, or the tone of the?
It does change the tone of the ride a little bit for sure. Because the other thing, and I do think that it'll be interesting if it pulls it off. Because I do think, even going back all the way to Walt Disney, like he said, it's good for people to get scared now and then. It's good that kids get scared, and that you kind of have to have that scary moment. I mean, that's a pretty typical trope in any story, right? The heroes have that scary moment that they have to overcome. And if this doesn't have that and it's more of a celebration type thing, that's not necessarily bad. It's just very different. So I think I guess I'm on wait and see, I guess, for lack of a better. Sure. I'm open to it. Like I said, I'm excited that it's different, that they're not just repeating the same story beats. But we'll have to see. I think they, if you are going in that direction, you don't really have that conflict. It's probably harder to pull off a captivating story. So we'll see if they're able to pull it off.
I think the emotions of excitement and anticipation of the drop coming in, like maybe she's being like, she's urging you along, like you got to hurry up. So like you're getting up to the lift, you're getting more excited, and you're getting more the anticipation, the nervousness kind of builds up rather than you're scared, it's foreboding, it's dangerous. Like those are two different types of adrenaline building emotions, right? Both build adrenaline, but one does it in a scary way. The other one does it like in a exciting, nervous kind of type of way. We'll see if it works, and I think it will. So, but I'm looking forward to seeing what the Imagineers can do in making that whole area rather exciting. Because before it was just bright light above you, and all you did was see that wet track belt bringing you up, right? So it wasn't very like festive inside.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So speaking of light, Mama of Six had a really interesting discussion point that you found and I completely missed, and I had to back scroll to go find this. Shame on me. But what did Mama of Six have an idea?
Yeah, I just thought it's really interesting because it's not something I ever really thought about or considered, and maybe it's because my kids are getting older and that sort of thing. But basically what she posted was, what are everyone's thoughts of Disney gearing most of its new attractions to be best enjoyed at night? And she would mention how Moana's Journey of Water, Tron, the new Epcot Spine, the show that's on Spaceship Earth, Pandora, and now we're referencing it now after we covered Tiana's, because if you look at the concept art of Tiana's, obviously it has a daytime look, but they specifically made nighttime concept art as well. And you also have things like Slinky Dog Dash and all of Toy Story Land look better at night. And so I understand this might help extend crowds into the evening, but it also kind of stinks for families with young children who may not be able to stay up that late. So I didn't know, like, I hadn't really thought about that, okay, yeah, I'm like more excited about things like, okay, cool. Like they made this like so that it has a daytime view and then they're kind of plussing it or making it different at night. That's great. But I never really thought about it from someone's perspective of, we don't go to the parks at night, and are we missing the A+, the A version of the attraction? We're only getting the B version because we're there during the day.
So I love the parks at night. If I could just go to the parks and it just be nighttime, like dusk leading into night, like that would be fantastic. But you can't do that in a vast majority of the year because like during the summer, it doesn't get dark until 9 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
or 8 o'clock at night into leading into 9. So that makes the hours at the parks very low, which is probably why they increased the hours of the park. So you can stay there until 11 or 12 o'clock. So you get a couple hours at nighttime. And that's why I was really a big fan of going down in December, because it got dark at like 5:30, which is awesome. And you spend most of the time at the parks at night. And again, I'm going to say this again. The part Disney World it does not belong being as cold as it was during my trip at Disney World, because that completely changed everything at nighttime, because at nighttime we were starting to get extremely cold. But that being said, how does that how does that affect my view of the parks? I think it's actually fantastic, because it leads me to hope that if Disney's starting to emphasize nighttime park touring, like we're going to make the parks beautiful at night, I would hope that, because I know they've done this before with Florida resident tickets, but I'd love to have the option of buying a half day ticket to Disney just to go to the park at night. Like if I could go down there on my off day, and I don't think they would ever do it with bundles, right? Because it's just basically all or nothing on there. But if I can get like a $60 or a half price ticket, but I can only get in at like 6 o'clock at night and stay to park close, I would consider that for my family on my off nights, because I don't want to spend. Let's say vacation, right? You have your day off, and instead of spending it at Disney Springs and doing that kind of nonsense, I want to go to the parks, but I don't feel like spending another, $120 just to be in the parks one extra night, but only for a couple hours. And not everybody buys a ticket for every single day, and then you start feeling guilty. I wasted a whole day of ticket, and I'm only going for a couple hours, but. What do you think of the chances of Disney offering half price tickets if they keep doing this in years to come?
I mean, I guess at one point they used to have that. I think it was an after 6 or after 4 ticket for Epcot for locals.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I can't say never, but I feel like they're filling that up with these after hours parties, right? And they're not half price. They're 120% of the cost. So I think it's probably more that, this is another motivator to buy those after hour tickets, that there is like this whole evening to experience, and when you're there late and you have more time late.
I've got something for you just to make it more complicated, because Disney loves making park planning more complicated. How about a Hopper Light, right? So we're going to use same terminology, but add words to it just to make it very confusing. So the Hopper Light Pass is a pass that you can get. It's half the cost of the Hopper add-on, right? So for a 4+ day trip, it's an extra $90 no matter how many tickets you get to get the Hopper on there for every day. What if it was $40 extra, and you can't you now it's the restricted Hopper again, right? So now it's unlimited hopping, but now it's a Hopper you can't hop until 4, 5, 6 o'clock on all your tickets. Do you think Disney would do something silly like that? I mean, I don't think so,
No,
but I wouldn't be surprised if they did, though. I would not be surprised.
The one thing you made me think about, could they do something different? What if they did like the after hours, but if you already had a ticket for Magic Kingdom that day, like you could buy it for the day, the evening, or both, and the both is less than the sum of the two. So let's say for $200 you could be there the whole day, including the after hours time.
I don't get what you're saying. You're saying you can buy like a day ticket and an after hours ticket, but it's a combined ticket?
Exactly. So instead of spending $100 for the day, or $120 for the day and $120 for the after hours, you pay $175 or $200, and you can stay there from park opening through the after hours.
Like you're getting I think they could potentially do that, because if they fill out more days with the after hour events.
Yeah,
right,
that's what I'm thinking.
Parks, right?
If it becomes more of like not like this super, super rare type thing, super limited, that's the word I was thinking of, type thing. It's almost more the norm that one of the parks is open late every single night, and you could add it on to your day ticket to stay late. So
let's say, because I can see Disney, again, this is complicated, so this is right up Disney's alley. I think what they could do, because there's a Magic Kingdom extra hour event, and I think they want people getting out of Magic Kingdom, right? So I could see them doing something like, if there ever was an Animal Kingdom extra hour event, which there isn't, that with the extra hour plus ticket, or whatever you want to call it, there's got to be a plus sign in there somewhere. It gets you into all the other extra hour events, but not the Magic Kingdom one. Or they make a rule where you get the bonus after hour event for every day of your ticket, but you can't use it at the same park that you registered. That's even more complicated.
No, that's that.
But I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe they could do it as a promo where if you buy a 4-day ticket and 4 days hotel or whatever, you get a free after hours to Epcot or Hollywood Studios or something.
Let's hope bookings are soft because they're going to have to get inventive to get people down there. That's the only way they're going to do something like that, I think, right? So I think some things are going to be very telling. We're going to know a lot soon because the quarter report's coming out in, was it the first week of February? Somewhere around there, so, I think? Or is it coming up next week? I forget. It's coming up soon.
Yeah, it's still a couple
Q1
weeks,
report.
I think, but it's
into February then.
Yeah.
So we're going to see Disney Plus numbers, other quarterly report numbers. We're going to get a lot of reports for the calendar year 2023 stuff coming out in the next couple of months for park attendance. That usually comes out in like April, May, June timeframe, I think, for all those type of reports. And I've been saying this forever. If Disney wants more guests, they're going to have to do something with ticket costs because they're doing it right now with a lot of the Florida resident type of passes. You can get like a bundle of 4. They're discounting them heavily. It's almost like half price for a Florida resident to come in for a day ticket on certain days. And I think that's extremely popular because everybody's talking about like, I have friends, they don't want to go to Disney, but they'll go to Disney for $60, but they're not going to go for $120 or something else like that. So I think Disney's going to have to do something. I doubt they're going to throw in all these extra hours because they want to keep them at a premium level, I think. But we'll see. Again, back to the original topic. The more stuff that they could do for the parks at night, the more I will plan around it, I think, because I love the parks at night. So I love where Disney's going with this. All right, so time for a game.
Okay.
This is a complicated one, Phil. I was explaining to you before the show to get my intention. I'm calling it pro or con. So I've got a list. I have 13 things here. I don't know if we're going to get through all of them, but they're all typical perks or things that we use. And normally you would say that's a good thing. I like it. Or maybe you're indifferent. But I'm going to ask you if it's a pro or a con for the park as a whole, right? So I'm going to ask you, the first one is going to be early morning entry. So that means everybody that's a resort guest can get to any park 30 minutes beforehand. Naturally, you say, yeah, that's a pro. It's more park time. It's great. But you have to think to the next level, but how does that impact either park operations? How does that, because they offer you 30 minutes early, what can't they offer you on the other hand? So there's always a balance effect for it. They have to give you this, but they don't allow you to do this. Or they do this, but now they can't offer this also on the side. So these could all be just great things. And you just might go pro. And this was a silly game and we'll never do this again. But I think there's some nuance to it. And Phil, your microphone is off before we start doing this.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so first one, we'll go early morning entry. Is this a pro or a con overall?
So overall for Disney, I think it's a pro because it's for every park. And so I think that makes it a bigger disadvantage for people off-site. And it sort of necessitates that you rope drop if you're on-site to get the value out of it. And if you don't, it sort of promotes buying Genie Plus. So I think it's a pro overall for Disney. For the guest, it kind of depends what type of guest you are. If you're somebody who stays on site all the time and you're always rope dropping, it's awesome. I think it's better than what was there before. I think if you're an off-site guest or somebody who wants to sleep in, it's not ideal.
I mean, I think if you have access to it from a personal level and from an operational point of view, I think it's all pro. I agree with that. I mean, if you want to sleep in, but that's up to you. You're missing out on the things if you want to sleep in. I don't think that's a con for you. That's not your style, so you just don't take advantage of it. So it's not they're not pulling away from anything else. Also, I think versus what they used to do, where they randomly picked a park and you were able to get an hour early, but it was only a specific park. How that was, I think I would have called that one a con only because if it's a single part, today's Magic Kingdom, then everybody is going to Magic Kingdom that day.
100%.
The crowds were awful. And it was a touring strategy to go to another park on early morning entry because people are going to be naturally drawn somewhere else or to Magic Kingdom. So therefore Hollywood Studios was slower or something else like
Yep.
that. So I think it's a con because everybody goes to every single park. If you want to, you can start your day 30 minutes extra and get on maybe one or two rides in the meantime. So I think we both agree that it's definitely a pro.
Yep.
What about extra evening hours, which are for deluxe guests only? And I don't know if it's a set time, but it's roughly, 2 extra hours in the parks?
Yes.
For
It's
most
2
days?
extra hours at one of the parks, like 1 or 2 days a week. I think it's usually just Magic Kingdom one day, Epcot one day, and I think they've done a couple days for Hollywood Studios.
What do you think?
I get why they do it. It promotes staying at deluxe and it gives some rewards for people who are spending more. I don't like it because it kind of creates a bit of a class system, and I don't know, like we just talked about how it's so nice to enjoy the parks at night. I think it was better when they had everybody that stayed on property could go to a park in the
I'm
evening.
I'm I'm con all across the board on this because I think it hurts your Disney experience. There's a couple different ways. I don't think it's a class system. You spend the money, go to a fancier hotel, you deserve more perks because you should be getting more for your dollar, right? I don't believe that. I think deluxe guests spending more money, they deserve to get more things because they're paying for it. But where I think it's bad, especially for deluxe guests, is you get to go to the parks like one night a week for an extra 2 hours. It goes to Disney feels like they've done enough for deluxe guests and they don't have to bring a better experience for the $800 a night room, right? You get to kind of easily paint over any negative things about the reason. Oh, but you get to go to the parks, right?
Yeah.
I think they need to get more perks like that. 2 hours at a random park, or not, maybe it's not random, but like 2 hours at a park in a day or two a week doesn't make me want to spend double the price of a moderate just to stay there, right? So I think it detracts from Disney's motivation to give other perks for deluxe guests, right? So I'm against that. I agree with your second point where because you have these extra evening hours, that basically forces Disney to close the parks, quote unquote, early or not extend the parks for everybody, right? So there's a day guest cap on that, and which I think impacts it a bit. So I'm with you on there. Okay, the next one is festival booths at Epcot, and I'm talking not like art booths or whatever. These are just basically the food booths, right, in the World Showcase. Pro or con?
So I'm a little torn on this one because I enjoy them. I like that they're there. We usually plan around them there, like that's one of our meals for the day or whatever. I think the con to them is that there's so much good dining options in Epcot that we never get to.
Yep.
Because we're eating at the food booth. So I don't know. I do think I liked it better when it was in the past when there wasn't a festival pretty much every day of the year, and it was actually kind of unique and special when they had them, but there's still plenty of other days to go to Epcot and just kind of do that. So I kind of missed that. It's hard for me to say it's a net negative because I still like having those options and I think they're fun and stuff like that, but there definitely is a negative side to them.
Yeah, I'm almost like 60-70% con on this one. And I don't think you can truly understand my point of view unless you've done multiple festivals and jobs. So if you're listening to this, you've only done the festival once, or you've never been, or you've been there but never really partook. You just kind of walked by and you ate somewhere else or did something else. The reason why I think it's a con is I think it allows Disney to be lazy. Right, every single year they pull up the same food for the same festival. Maybe they change one or two things around the World Showcase, but they become like you said, they become a fixture, and you just expect them, and they're there all the time. It's just basically now a normal restaurant somewhere that you grab some food at. Like there's nothing special about them if they're there all the time, right? So you're not getting, and you're also not getting any unique experiences. So yeah, you get to try some new food and whatever, and I do like the ability to walk around, try a little bit of this, try a little bit of that type of thing. But you're not getting anything out of it. Just you walk up and you get food, right? And it's you become to expect it. I think if they had more like show kitchens where they're actually cooking the food in front of you and putting on like getting a little bit more cultural experience rather than just showing up and seeing a cast member from that culture or that part of the world, talking to you, interacting with you, giving you pay him your $15 for a beer and a sushi tree or whatever, and then you rip the ticket, here you go, and you walk away and whatever. It's it's good experience tasting different food, but the dining experience before and during and after the meal, I think, is subpar because there's no seating, so
Yep.
there's no dining experience. Um, it would be better if they had a pavilion or a kitchen. Maybe they're not doing anything fancy with the food, but it's open air. You can kind of see it. You get your food. There's a place to sit, and where you're sitting, there's entertainment for that country. I think that'd be a better experience. It needs to be more of an experience because right
Yeah.
now it's just basically a bunch of food carts or
I feel
food
like that's
trucks.
how the Food and Wine Festival used to be when we went years ago. Like
Mm-hmm.
they had the festival center, they had celebrity chefs there doing demonstrations, and you could go and try the food and see them cooking it before you and stuff. Like I feel like we need to get back to that and reduce the number of just booths that have a bunch of college kids prepping food and stuff like that out.
I think you have to take more examples of the Germany pavilion during the festival holidays because you got the guy singing, you got the food, and you're being entertained while you're waiting on a very long line for that
Yeah.
cheese fondue. I think there just needs to be more celebration of culture and food, like specifically, rather than like just get online for your next beer
Yeah.
as you walk around type of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm con on this unless they kind of prove it a little bit. I doubt they will though because they make a ton of money after that.
Exactly.
The next one is the virtual queue, pro or con, Phil.
So I have a caveat with this one. I'm pro virtual queue when it is like how is on the vast majority of days now, where if you want to get one, you have a 99.9% chance of getting one as long as you're active for the 1 p.m. one. I didn't like it when Rise of the Resistance first opened, and it felt like an absolute crapshoot if you're going to get one or not. So when it truly is like, this is just preventing you from waiting 2 hours, it's not preventing you from riding at all.
Yep.
Then I think it's good. So as long as it's those situations, I'm all for it.
I got caught on my. I personally like. I'm both pro and con.
Yeah.
I'm pro because I like being able to make sure I get on the new attraction and I'm not waiting for longer than an hour. Right? If it's a brand new marquee attraction, if Rise of the Resistance or Flight of Passage didn't have a virtual queue, but if Rise of the Resistance or Guardians or Tron did not have a virtual queue, you'd be waiting. If they were standby when they were new, that's a 2 to 3 hour wait most days, I would think.
Yeah.
The pros of the virtual queue guarantees not a super long wait, still 40 minutes to an hour to get on an attraction. I agree with you. When I was there the one day, like the 7 a.m. drop went like in 4 seconds.
Yeah.
The 1 p.m. drop went in like less than that. And I wasn't able to go on unless I paid for it, which I ended up doing. And that was incredibly disappointing.
Yeah.
The cons of it are, even if you wanted to wait, you can't get on more than once unless you pay money, which sucks, right? And then 2, the one thing I don't like about virtual queues is that it puts an anchor on a part of the park that you have to adhere to, right? You don't know, you kind of might be able to guess when your return time is, but you might have like ADRs, you might be on another attraction, you might be on another part of the park, or you might be getting tired, you want to go back to your resort for an hour, and then you're not there. Luckily in Epcot, they don't really care about Guardians. You could get on whenever, basically, at that point. I just don't like, and this is something I discussed in my trip report. I don't like having anchor times that I have to plan around in my day. Meals is a different story, but like, all right, I want to enjoy the park the way I'm going. Maybe I'm doing other Genie Plus things or whatever. But then I'm like, I've got to be on this part of the park within this hour. So that kind of forces me to do things. I hate being forced to do things when I'm at Disney World that are not of my choosing, that I'm forcing myself to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my cons. So there's more cons to it than pros, but the pro's a pretty big one. So I think that kind of balances them out. So I'm not pro or con. I'm like almost even on both of those. The next one, I don't think we should spend too much time on this one. So I'm going to combine the next 2, Genie Plus and individual Lightning Lane. Let's not talk about what they should be, but in their own current iteration. So what do you think?
Yeah. So Genie Plus, I feel like we've talked about this so much that it can be super efficient, but it just dictates your day. And I would rather it not exist. Individual Lightning Lanes, I'm more open to that. I actually would be in favor of them getting rid of Genie Plus and expanding the individual Lightning Lanes a little bit more, because you can kind of just still pick and choose. You could pick your return time and stuff, and it's just more efficient, I think. So of the 2, I'm more pro on individual Lightning Lanes. If they're going to have some sort of paid skip the line, I'm pretty I think there's more cons to Genie Plus.
Yeah, the more times I use Genie Plus, the less times I actually want to use it. Now, if I was like a solo traveler, or I'm going with a friend, or don't only with a significant other type of thing, a GD Plus might be okay at that point, because you're really not planning for a family of 5 and you're kind of pushing everybody around. But like if I was there by myself and I want to go commando, I can do that without having to think about everybody else. But yeah, GD Plus, you're planning too much. There's too much time. It's just not healthy for your park experience, in my opinion. Even if it's effective, it's just I don't think it's mentally healthy for you doing that on a trip. My next one after that, and I agree with you, individual lanes also 100% on that. So I'm going like mostly con on both of those for the most part. All right, the next one is Magic Band Plus. Is this a pro or a con for you?
I mean, I like them. I think it's a fun thing. I like souvenirs that actually do something. So overall, I'm pro them. I guess the con is they've invested a lot of money in it, and I don't know if they're going to keep adding to it or not. And I keep kind of think of like, well, what else could they have done with that money and that sort of thing. So I think it's sort of a double-edged sword where they either need to keep investing and having more things to do with them to really see the value, but I just don't know if that's justified. So I like them existing, but I do wonder about like what else could be done with that money.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I don't like the dichotomy of having your boring old Magic Band, because I had one that was like $60. I got the 50th anniversary one, and I bought it because Magic Band Plus wasn't out yet at that point. And I bought it, and then I'm like, I've got this one, I got to use it again. And now I'm like, I finally bought one for myself. I think they're great. I don't want to. The money thing is thrown off by how inexpensive they are based on what I thought. If you go back to a lot of the old shows, where we're like, oh, these things are going to be like $90. It's going to be like a Fitbit. It's like going to be super expensive. And then they were like $35. And I'm like, oh, Disney should do this more often by setting my expectations of something expensive and then just dropping it $35. I have no problem giving you $35 now. The only other thing I like you mentioned about like Magic Band Plus having like things to do. I think that the big heavy con is I got this really cool thing. It lights up from time to time. My kids absolutely love them. I just think it should do more. Like, why can't I wear like Magic Band Plus? What they should do is you can make it a little bit more the ability to stay on your wrist a little bit better, because I'm constantly worried about this $35 thing and falling off with their crummy things. Like my daughter lost one because it just fell off her wrist because it got caught on her sleeve and it just ripped off. So I something that secures a bit more, like a buckle or anything like a watch type of thing. But like I should be able to wear that every single day of my life and have it be almost like a Apple Watch type of thing. And like when my phone gets a notification or a call, it should light up or buzz. Like I should be able to connect it with my phone overall. And now Disney has people wearing Magic Bands where like in real life and interacting with their phone. I think Disney should do something like that. But again, we're here speculating it. So the con is it doesn't do more of what it could do, I guess. Right. Going forward here, ride updates, pros or cons. I'll give you mine really quick. Anytime they can update a ride to make it more relevant in today's society, or update it, or it needs like spaceship Earth or Space Mountain, very very old ride systems, they should all be updated, and I'm all here for it. Disney World's not a museum. What do you think? It's all pro.
So I guess my first thought is actually con, because I feel like they're doing more ride updates instead of ride additions. Like, in Animal Kingdom, it shouldn't be that they're updating Dinosaur. It should be that they're updating Dinosaur and adding a third ride into Pandora and stuff like that. So it seems like they're just doing ride updates. So that's kind of the con to me, is that they're just, but in general, I'm in favor of rides being updated and like you say, making them more relevant and stuff like that. It's just like when we're talking about, well, how does this impact other park operations and stuff like that? I think that's the impact.
Yep. Yeah, I could see that, but again, the last thing that Disney did was Tron. That was a park edition. It's not a park. I think a lot of people. I'm not saying that you do this, but I think a lot of people are like, they're always only updating rides. I'm like, well, they just added the updated Mickey and Minnie's, but the added Galaxy's Edge, the added Tron, the added Guardians. I mean, they've been adding to the parks. Anyway, we had a couple more, but I'm looking at the clock. We need to move forward. So we're going to go with our last segment, our DBC engagement question of last week. Phil and I answered this, which was 3 wishes for 2024. And we're going to go through some that you guys out there put in Discord, what your wishes were for the upcoming year. Phil, do you want to read a couple of these as we go forward?
Sure. So we had a lot of great response, so I wanted to make sure we allocated some time for this. So Mama Six, who we talked about before, said they wanted early entry extended to 1 hour instead of 30 minutes. They wish that Advanced Genie Plus to be able to make selections at least 7 days ahead of your trip. Basically want it become paid Fast Pass Plus. And interesting, they said they want virtual queues for Guardians and Tron to go away and go back to standby. So that's their wish.
Let me throw this out here. I definitely like number 2. I definitely do not want our friend Matt's idea where you had to do rolling things. Like, okay, you want to make, you're 2 weeks out, you have to make the advanced the selections for that one day only and then walk it every single day. I definitely don't want that. Please don't do that. Matt, no one listened to Matt. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Virtual queue for I get why they don't want to do it, because it's another thing you have to fight over on your day, and if you don't get it, you're disappointed. So less disappointment points. I get that. Go ahead.
GNL said that they want resort airline check-in for baggage handling, resort delivery service from the parks, and to get rid of park reservations altogether for annual pass holders who stay on site. And I remember seeing hers, and I think I commented back. It was like, it's kind of sad that these are your wishes for the year. Like, these are like common sense things that absolutely should happen.
Sad.
But I guess it's like, set it low, and then you'll actually be happy about it.
Yeah, there we go. Set expectations appropriately.
Herdomaniac said they want to have no more pass holder reservations at all. Fix Rise of the Resistance back to its original state. And then move the drum line. I'm assuming they're talking about the actual drummers, the Jaminators or whoever they are, outside the Epcot spine area, just because they found it was banging and loud and kind of ruined the tranquility of the area.
2 things I want to mention. I want to welcome Herdomaniac back to the parks. I think this is his first time he's been in the parks for quite some time. He just bought his annual pass. So as a local getting back into the parks, he's done a lot of resort only stays and just kind of like chilled out there, which I totally respect. That's awesome. But he's finally back in the parks, which is cool. He's right about the drumline, by the way. Like, you're walking from like World Discovery, and you're kind of walking through the spine in the creation shop, and you hear all this loud music. It's cool. You're walking it. But as you transition from that into World Celebration area, it totally goes against the vibes of that center area. It just totally does not fit. So yeah, I think they should kind of push that back towards like World Showcase somewhere, or like maybe.
I think they used to be more in like World Discovery. I thought they were over in that area or something. But
that would be better, because there's really nothing over there really that like affects. There's not a lot of good music or sound in the area, but the World Celebration has some awesome sound. So yeah, I'm totally with that one.
Lumpy said, get rid of Genie Plus.
Yes, just get rid of it, right?
Apparently, to counteract Mamo 6, wants to keep or even add virtual queues to more attractions. Says to have it on Slinky Dog Dash and Guardians and Flight of Passage and Tron. So that was that. And then daily after hours, extra magic hours for deluxe guests. So basically, like we talked about before, rather than just like a couple days a week, every day there would be one park that gave you extra hours.
I would agree with that. I think if you're spending that type of money, or you're a DVC member, you should be able to get in the parks more often. I don't know how much that costs operationally, but I think it would get me to consider a deluxe stay if every day I got to stay in the parks 2 hours later. It would be something that would be on the top of my mind. Like, I would actually have to reevaluate the value proposition of staying at deluxe if I had that perk, because I think that's a good perk. But when it's just one night a week or 2 nights a week, it kind of deflates from it. Yep. They're never getting rid of Genie Plus, so that's never happening. Can you imagine adding more VQs, just more things you have to do at 7 a.m. and 1 p.m.? Can you just like, I have to now pay somebody to write a script to like book everything for me? Like, I need to get my whole family. I need to, like, if I'm there, I'm like, all right, Phil, I need your whole family to help me out. Like, come on Discord. Like, there's going to be a channel in Discord. Like, okay, we got to do VQs for all of our friends that are in the parks right now. So every day at 7, everybody wake up and get it.
Especially they mentioned having it on Rise of the Resistance and Slinky Dog Dash. So that's 2 in one park. Like, how do you even like manage that? Yeah,
it's not happening. Tough.
Let's see. TL Madden said bring back discounts for pre-buying tickets. I know he took advantage of this in the past, having some no expiration tickets that he was using from like 10 years ago. So I think he wants
never
that back,
happening.
but that's never happening. This one I agree with, which is kind of part of it about expanding individual lightning lanes, but getting rid of Genie Plus on attractions that never needed it, that they just kind of kept adding to it over the years when they needed more capacity because everybody had Fast Pass Plus. So you're living with your lands and your even Spaceship Earth and stuff, kind of the continual loaders that just don't operate well with 2 lines. And hours, extending early hours to an hour, he mentioned, and just having it consistently open later. And the other thing mentioned about it was like having the times a little bit more consistent or kind of known further in advance, to get away from this where they kind of set the hours and then 2 weeks before your trip, they update the hours and now you have to we have to get there an hour earlier than I thought we had to, and stuff like that.
I'm kind of with this one. I'm kind of like, you asked me this 2 months ago. I wouldn't really care. I'm like, oh, they always do it. So you always have to anticipate it. But, I was working with a friend of mine and I booked his trip for him and he's like, can I help you with your ADRs? Can I help you with your planning? You haven't been with a family. Like, can I help you? And he's like, no, we don't know what parks are open when's, and we don't know when deluxe hours are, and so we're not doing anything until we know that. You don't know that until 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior, so it's a little frustrating. So yes, consistent park hours would be an excellent wish. I think that's a very good one.
And then ending it with comments from Wheezy. It says this might have to go after Dinoland goes, but keeping Animal Kingdom open later constantly. I think we'd all would like to see that. Yes. Says being able to pre-purchase Genie Plus like you can do at Disneyland. So don't make me wake up that morning and have to actively choose to like spend $150 that morning on the spot.
Yep.
And then Hollywood Studios having extended evening hours for deluxe guests. So kind of similar things to other comments about expanding the after hours. Yep.
So I think the one thing we learned, everybody wants the parks open longer because I think there's a large collection of people that don't rope drop. And, there's a lot of people back in the day that would never go in before noon, but because the parks were typically open until 10, 11, 12 o'clock, they got a full day's worth of 10 to 12 hours at the parks. You can't do that anymore because a lot of the parks now close at like 9 o'clock. So, and things to do with time, I think is a big wish on everybody's point. Again, I want to go back to the tickets. I think TL Madden just said do you want to like the pre-purchase ticket discounts? I just want the ticket discounts to go back to where they were in 2019, where the tipping point was buying 4 or 5 tickets and they started getting cheaper. I want that. If Disney could do that, and I can see them doing that, where they see the metrics like it's more expensive, more park days, people aren't going to the parks more often per stay, so they're not spending as much money. So to me, it always made sense. Next week, we want to thank everybody for participating. A lot of people were going back and forth. There was like a huge amount of discussion going about on all these different points, and there was many different like spurs going off about talking about all sorts of different things. So it was great engagement. We appreciate you guys jumping in. And for those that did not jump in, stop being a lurker and jump in. We want to be your friend. So come join the magic conversation, to use some verbiage there. Next week or this week, DBC engagement that we're going to talk about next week's show is what is the biggest, best, or most successful planning tip or strategy that you've used or shared with somebody else that is no longer helpful? So this could be something like, back in 2018, I told everybody they need to do this. And if you told them to do that, now in 2024, they would be either lost, confused, or totally screw up their trip. So what are some of those really cool tips and tricks that you either figured out or you thought were secret or not many people knew? I already have a couple in my mind that just no longer valid because, maybe it was a fast pass tip because obviously there's no fast pass anymore. So it's not valid anymore, that type of stuff. So what can you guys think of? Unlimited answers, right? If you got one, that's great. If you got 5, list them out. And I think if we get a good enough chunk of these, I think this could be a solid, like good 10 or 20 minute segment because I love this type of stuff. I love the nostalgia of planning from the 20 teens, so to speak. All right, Phil, anything else that I might have forgotten that we need to go over?
No, just I did want to also welcome Unofficial Disney Scoop joined or follows us on YouTube now. Subscribe to there. So thanks for subscribing. And did want to mention we do also have an email address. So if you have a kind of a longer question you want to send us, we'd be happy to read it on the air. It is at thedbcpodcast@gmail.com. So pretty much similar to the other thing, but it's podcast instead of pod.
I want to apologize to Phil because he had highlighted this in the show notes. We need to talk about this. I completely glanced over it. That's my fault. But yes, we do have an email account if you're more comfortable emailing rather than tweeting at us or joining Discord or anything else like that. So if you are a bit more old school and like to stick with email, there is a way. But again, remember, it's not the DBC pod, it's the DBC podcast at gmail.com, the only one that's different. All right, everybody. We appreciate you listening and watching on whatever platform of your choice. Make sure you like and subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and all the other fun stuff that we do. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, take care, everyone.